It's late. You told yourself you'd start tomorrow. Again, your phone is in your hand, thumb scrolling without thinking. You're not even enjoying what you're watching. Your mind feels tired, but not productive tired, just drained. You're aware that time is passing, and somehow that awareness makes it worse. You think about the goals you had last year, and the year before that. You remember how serious you sounded when you explained them to someone else. You remember believing yourself. Now it's quiet, and in that quiet, there's a familiar discomfort. It's not that you don't know what to do. It's that when the moment arrives to actually do it, your mind hesitates. You feel resistance towards simple things. You negotiate with yourself over basics. You need motivation just to begin. And deep down, there's this thought you don't like admitting. Why can't I just stick to things like other people seem to? That's the moment most people escape from. They distract themselves. They rationalize. They promise change later. But if you're still listening, it's probably because you're tired of that pattern. My name is Zay, and I spend way too much time thinking about mental strength, discipline, and long-term self-mastery. If you're someone who struggles with inconsistency, weak focus, and lack of self-control, be sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helped you. This is not a hype video. I'm not here to pump you up for 10 minutes so you feel good and change nothing. The goal here is different. We're going to talk about discipline at a psychological level. Why most people never develop it. Why discipline looks extreme from the outside. And why, if you do this correctly, people will call you crazy. Not because you're intense, but because your behavior will stop making sense to undisciplined minds. This might be uncomfortable. Because discipline is not a personality trait. It's not something you're born with. It's a system that rewires how your brain responds to discomfort. Most people never build that system. Here's the first thing that needs to die. The belief that discipline comes from motivation. This idea has ruined more lives than laziness ever did. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is mechanical. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies on habit formation, like the work done by researchers at Duke University, show that over 40% of daily actions are habits, not conscious decisions. That means behavior is largely automated. So when people say, "I just need more motivation," what they're actually saying is, "My systems are broken." Motivation spikes. Discipline persists. Here's what most people don't realize. If you need motivation, the task is already too big or too vague. Disciplined people don't ask, "How do I feel about this today?" They ask, "What is the next mechanical step," regardless of feeling. And that difference changes everything. Think about this. A person wakes up at the same time every day, trains even when they're tired, works when no one is watching, says no without explaining, repeats boring actions with precision. From the outside, that looks obsessive. From the inside, it feels calm. Here's the psychology behind that. The human brain is designed to avoid unnecessary energy expenditure. Your mind prefers comfort, novelty, and short-term rewards. Discipline directly threatens that system. So when someone consistently overrides those impulses, the average mind interprets it as abnormal behavior. Not because it's unhealthy, but because it's unfamiliar. That's why people mock discipline before they respect it. This is important. Most people are not lazy. They're mentally untrained. Laziness implies unwillingness. What's actually happening is low distress tolerance. Psychologists define distress tolerance as your ability to stay engaged in a task while experiencing discomfort, boredom, frustration, doubt, fatigue. Research in behavioral psychology shows that people with higher distress tolerance follow through more consistently, delay gratification, better experience less internal resistance over time. Discipline is simply trained distress tolerance. You don't become disciplined by doing hard things once. You become disciplined by not escaping discomfort repeatedly. That's it. Think of discipline like a muscle, but not in the motivational way people usually say that. Here's the accurate version. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce avoidance pathways in your brain. Every time you stay, you reinforce control pathways. MRI, studies on habit formation, show that repeated behavior strengthens neural circuits through myelination. The brain literally insulates the pathway you use most. So when you quit early, hesitate, or negotiate, your brain gets better at quitting. When you act without negotiation, your brain gets better at obedience. Not obedience to authority, obedience to your own decisions. That's self-mastery. I knew someone who had talent, real talent, smart, creative, big plans. But every time things got boring, he switched directions.
Every time progress slowed, he questioned everything. He always needed to feel aligned before acting. Years passed. Nothing solid was built, not because he lacked ability, but because his mind never learned to endure monotony. Discipline would have looked boring to him, but boring builds empires.
Okay, Zay, but isn't this unhealthy? Isn't this too rigid? Good question. Here's the distinction most people miss. Rigid people are controlled by rules. Disciplined people are controlled by values. Discipline isn't about doing everything. It's about doing a few things consistently and letting everything else go. In fact, high-discipline individuals often experience less mental stress because they eliminate decision fatigue. Research by Roy Baumeister on ego depletion shows that constant decision-making drains cognitive resources. Discipline reduces decisions. You don't argue with yourself, you execute. That's freedom. Here's where it gets interesting. Most people think discipline is about adding force. It's not. Discipline is about removing negotiation. The moment you say, "Should I do this today?" you've already weakened the behavior. Disciplined people pre-decide. They don't wake up and choose. They wake up and follow instructions they gave themselves earlier. That's why their actions look automatic. Because they are. No theory here. Let's make this actionable. Step 1. Shrink the promise. Choose one behavior so small it feels almost insulting. 5 minutes, 1 page, 1 set. Discipline grows from completion, not intensity. Step 2. Fix the time, not the mood. Same time, same trigger. Every day, mood is irrelevant. Step 3. Remove the exit. No backup plan. No, if I feel like it. Once the time hits, you start. Step 4. Track silently. No announcements, no validation, just a private record. Silence strengthens identity. There's a concept in psychology called identity-based habits. Every action you repeat sends a signal to your brain about who you are, not who you want to be, who you are proving yourself to be. When actions align consistently, identity follows. And once identity shifts, discipline becomes easier, not because you're stronger, but because you're no longer arguing with yourself. Discipline is lonely at first, not because people hate it, but because most people don't live there. You'll stop explaining yourself. You'll stop seeking permission. You'll stop needing excitement. And yes, people will call you crazy. But what they really mean is you've stopped playing the same mental games we're stuck in. Here's how this ends. Not with a burst of energy, not with a promise, but with a decision you make once and honor daily. Mental strength is built in silence. Discipline is built in repetition. Self-mastery is built when no one is watching. If this helped you think differently, subscribe. Not for motivation, but for consistency. And remember, the strongest minds don't announce themselves, they execute.